So one thing that people don't understand about me is that I have 4 major hobbies, 2 of which I've turned into my job. I also do photography for fun, and I go outdoors in a good chunk of the week. With that schedule, plus the extra things that I need to do for this job, I don't get to keep up with most TV shows, and I kind of stick myself to a couple that I enjoy, like Supernatural, The Flash, and things like Silicon Valley. And I normally binge watch these at the end of their seasons, which brings me to today's discussion, The Flash Season 4, which at the time of recording this is the one CW show other than Supernatural that I've managed to keep up with. I don't get to keep up with much of the CW universe due to the reasons stated above, but somehow I managed to keep up with The Flash seemingly. And seriously, I thought we couldn't have a worse season than last season's little Savitar situation that made no sense. Also, warning, this video is literally going to be nitpicking in my own opinion. I know people don't believe that opinions exist and that we all need to have a hive mind, and if you don't agree with the hive mind, well, you're stupid, but get over it. It's my video and I titled it something along the lines of Season 4 of Flash ruined by Iris West. You knew what you were getting into. And on that note, just so you know, there's like mild spoilers for much of Season 4 of The Flash, specifically episodes 18 to 21, because I specifically bring up points of those episodes. Let's move on. So before we can get into my Iris West problem, I need to present what I feel is the core problem of the CW shows. And keep in mind, this is just a guy who watches the shows. I have no writing credit ever in a television show. I have no idea how that kind of thing works on the inner workings of it. But my opinion is the problem is related to their need to constantly expand their superhero roster and core cast. It's almost as if the CW shows aren't content with a single superhero in their shows, so they want to make team-based shows like Team Arrow, Team Flash, Team Supergirl. All the while, we have a team-based show known as the Team Legends of Tomorrow. When I pick up a Flash comic, I'm expecting to read the Flash. Maybe Barry, maybe Wally, but I'm expecting a single primary character. Sure, we have crossover issues and special events, but eventually it goes back to just being about the Flash. When I turn on the Flash TV show, though, I'm watching Flash and his amazing friends. We have Flash, Five, Killer Frost, the Elongated Man in most of these episodes. But then we also have characters like Iris West, Joe West, Harrison Wells, sometimes Jesse Quick, sometimes other characters like Cecile. We just have such a large cast of individuals. And then we have crossover people like Gypsy that pop in for a few episodes, Arrow popping over to say, hi, I shoot arrows too. And for some odd reason, we get Diggle all the time whenever Flash wants to make a joke about running someone super fast and making them throw up. Why do we have all of these cast members and reoccurring cast members? I get it. The CW isn't targeting the core superhero fan base, and that's fine. I love to argue with people that not every comic book property is for every comic book fan. Squirrel Girl has her fans, guys. I don't like it. And our community of comic book fans has exponentially exploded over the last 15 years, and there's people on all sides of the coin now. But CW is literally trying to have their cake and eat it too. So let's use Flash Season 4 for my example, since, you know, it's the one that I just recently actually watched. Besides, Arrow and Supergirl have these massive cast lists, and I have no idea who half these people are anymore. I see Wild Dog on Arrow, and that's some obscure guy in Cave Carson right now. And Rain on Supergirl? A world killer? Please tell me that that's a villain. In The Flash, we have Barry, Iris, Joe, Cisco, Harry, Caitlin, and Ralph. And if you count early enough in the season, we even have Wally in this mix. Luckily, he got pushed off onto another show, which is why I now need to catch up on Legends of Tomorrow. But how do you manage to have all of these cast members in a show called The Flash? You give them all subplots and things that are happening, which is a trademark CW move. You can have them build up drama and relationships in a soap opera fashion that spans the entire season, because that would actually make sense. Make your plots drag on and keep your viewers invested. But that's my first problem with The Flash and the expanded cast. They don't span over the entire season most of the time. What they try to do is make each of the episodes mostly stand alone while wrapping up an overall plot. You see, in the world of comic books, most comic books are a monthly release. Yes, we have some twice monthly books now, but the point still stands. An average story arc will run 3 to 6 issues, which means you are waiting 3 to 6 months to get the conclusion to a plot point. While issue 6 is the moment where Barry has to run faster to defeat a villain, you don't feel as though it's being overdone because it hasn't been. Barry, in the end, has only had to run super fast to save the day 2 to 4 times that entire year. The rest of the time was him dealing with Iris or dealing with his commitments to the Justice League. But this show, along with the other CW universe shows, takes what would be a 6-issue arc and they try to cram it into a single issue, which I guess can work, except they do it in a manner that just feels forced, and like it's being handled in a far too quickly manner. They then drag out the overall arc like the Thinker for the entire season. So let's do some fast comic book math with random numbers that I'm gonna throw in there. If you were to take each episode of The Flash and make it into a 3-issue comic book arc, then released it every week, you would still be at about 34 months before you got this entire Thinker storyline that they're doing in the show. Do you know how infrequently we have storylines that span 3 years? This is why season 3 of The Flash felt so poorly done. We had a plotline that ran in the Flash comics for a short buildup and then an actual Blue Flash fight that lasted less than a year. But in order to make this work in TV terms, the character Savitar had to be ridiculously overpowered, but unable to just straight up kill Barry and everyone else for a multitude of reasons. And he had to run into them multiple times to present a threat. That doesn't make any sense. This is why the Netflix shows do it so much better. They give us a straight 8 to 12 episodes that follow a single plot line. Sure, there might be a single filler episode or two in there, but overall we get a single plot. This is probably more of an issue with weekly releasing a show instead of a straight 12-episode drop that people can enjoy, but then you throw in a large cast of primary characters. And like I said, that's CW trying to have their cake and eat it too. You are already spinning your wheels on the main plot, and then you throw in a full team, each with their own subplot that has to be ongoing. And you begin to get a tad bit scattered on the plot points and purposes of the characters, which brings me to Iris West. Iris West has become so useless that it's not even funny. In season 1 and 2, she was simply Barry's adopted sister that he had a crush on. And yes, that is still weird. I don't care how many times you try to cover that up, that is weird. But fine, whatever, she was still an arm's length away from the team. During these seasons, Cisco and Caitlin were mostly just a support cast for Barry, allowing us to get a lot of time with the Flash. Focus on the Flash, see his powers develop, see him deal with issues, but that's besides the point. That's what made season 1 amazing. But then we got to season 3, and it was the whole Savitar thing that just made no real sense, and in the end, it turned Iris's entire purpose into a damsel in distress. Keep her safe. And then when Barry entered the Speed Force at the end of the season, he returned 6 months later, and Iris went from damsel in distress to the leader of Team Flash? Okay, this could work. This could be a very valid plot point. So since it's not like I study every episode of The Flash frame by frame, I did a little research. I thought to myself, maybe Iris is some ex-military individual. Maybe Iris has like 4 PhDs that we don't know about. Maybe Iris got powers at some point that I wasn't paying attention. But nope, nothing that would make sense. If you look at her Arrowverse wiki page, it states that Iris is 29 and she's an ex-blogger for the news. And also, ex-waitress. That is her experience to become the leader of Team Flash. Now, I had this debate with Rob from Comics Explained, and as many people know, he's a huge fan of Candace Patton, the actress. He asked me a follow-up question. Hey, Benny, why couldn't she be the leader of Team Flash? And he's got a good point. Why couldn't she be? But my question is, why is she? This is a team with a well-respected member of the CCPD, Joe Wells. A team with Caitlin Snow, a well-respected member of the scientific community and a bioengineer, plus metahuman who is dealing with her own things such as learning how to use her powers. And Cisco Ramon, a mechanical engineering genius and metahuman with control over his own powers and the ability to teleport people around. Now you can say, oh, well, she led the vigilantes in the Flashpoint timeline showing that she's capable of doing this. And you're right, but Cisco was the CEO of his own company in that universe, so how does this qualify her but disqualify him? But once again, none of this disqualifies her from being the leader. We can go ahead and say that Joe wanted to focus on his own things. Cisco and Caitlin were preoccupied with the whole thing, and with Wally being younger than everyone else, Iris's general guidance over him worked. I got you. With Barry gone, she is the most likely candidate to lead Wally. But then why did she keep doing it once Barry came back? The team got their heads on straight, everyone was working together, and the Flash of Team Flash came back and was totally capable. See, this is what bothers me. While she isn't unable to do the job, there are many other individuals who are better qualified for the job, and she continues to prove this as the season goes on. Around episode 18, it started to bother me over and over that Iris was acting in a particular manner and she wasn't really being useful. So I started to take some really nitpicking notes because I wanted to make this video. So there's a moment in episode 18 of season 4 where everyone explained the entire plan involving the sonic wand thingy, and Iris literally said nothing until Harrison Wells finished the entire plan. She then jumped in to tell the entire group to go out there and do the plan that he just said. She then proceeded to follow Caitlin, and instead of helping Caitlin with anything that she was working on, Caitlin proceeded to try and explain what was happening, only to have Iris finish her sentences. What was the point of that? To show Caitlin that she was also intelligent? To interrupt her fellow scientist? No. These are not signs of a solid leader or that she belongs in that role. It's almost as if the CW realized that they had made a mistake, so they figured, well, she's on Team Flash, we better make it seem like she belongs there. Another moment in this episode is after Ralph has his moment in which he shows the full circle of development that he has gone through for this entire season, going from solo guy who didn't care about anyone to a guy willing to sacrifice himself for the sake of a team. We then have a discussion with the team, and Barry opens up that discussion, and then Iris proceeds to explain known facts. Cisco jumps in, and then Joe says something that bothers me. He says Barry and Iris have led the team, which brings us to everyone deciding to jump on board, but once again, Iris didn't do anything. She stated known facts brought up by other characters or things that were developed by other characters, and then everyone treats her like she's the genius with the plan. Now, in this episode, she also has her big shining moment. She actually got into a fight with DeVoe's wife, and instead of just being a sideline character, it leads to a very strong moment for her character in which she pushes herself on a sword to get rid of DeVoe's wife. But how did we get there? What was the arc that led to this? One episode where she got Flash's powers? Her journey of going from a reporter to a leader that gave us these moments? We wouldn't know, because we didn't see any line of development that got us here. Ralph Digby went from guy who didn't care about anyone to the end of his entire life. It wasn't until episode 21 that Iris kind of seemed useful again. Her whole plan was to write an article to get the city on the side of Team Flash. You know, her skill set. And the article proved to be useful, and it led the city to helping Team Flash, leading us to the finale. This was a good way to use her, not having her give pep talks. And all of my complaining and ranting boils down to this. Multiple months between season 3 and 4 is not enough time for Iris to become the leader of Team Flash. It was a very contrived decision to even have her there and then remain there, giving out instructions to accomplished scientists and literal superheroes with at this point years under their belts. It's just weird. If someone were to start a YouTube channel and come to me and be like, hey Benny, I started my channel, 6 months ago, but you're doing this all wrong. Your humor is crap, you're far too loud, and nobody likes you. I'd agree with him, but I'd also kick him out. Like, who is he to tell me what to do? The qualification of I'm a reporter and I'm dating Barry Allen is not really enough for me to believe that she's in charge of the team long term. They could have had her there as a reporter, using her contacts to get them information that the plot needs them to have and to allow it to move forward. How many times have we had a moment in this show where they just conveniently come across information that this could have been resolved having her be a reporter with contacts? The contacts could be getting them answers and information, and it would be her skill set, and it would make her important to the team. I am thankful that they did not resign her simply to be the wife of the main protagonist, but her being the team leader just feels so forced. And that doubles back to my original point. When you forcibly expand your cast with permanent members for the sake of just having more superheroes and more plots, you're eventually going to run out of things to do with these characters you brought in. Making Iris the damsel in distress for season 3 worked, and then showing another timeline where she could even lead with the proper time sync to train into that role worked very well. But after that, it was like the writers realized they had an issue. Hey, we now have Iris, and we now have her with the knowledge of everyone's identity and what they do. She also knows that every week they are fighting against the fate of the universe. Crap, how do we make her important? But what do you think? Are my opinions crap? Is this just a BS video for the sake of getting clickbait during the finale of the show? Because it is, but that's besides the point. I'm trying to make more of these like editorials in my opinion videos. What do you think has ruined season 4 of The Flash, or do you think it's as good as it has ever been? And on that note, this is Benny signing off with these final words. Savitar was bullshit.